Welcome to Chris Barking Shooting Sports. Today we've got a shooting tripod. This is a carbon fibre tripod from Manbilly. It comes with this like corduroy case. Open that up. I think as shooters we'll probably use this once when it's first arrived, and then it'll never get used again because it'll just get chucked in the back of a truck covered in mud, etc. We're not really photographers, are we? But there we go. And this is it. So let's just grab this out of here and see what's in there with it. Obviously the case zips up. It's got a little bit of padding on it. It's quite strong, and you've got carry handles for this sort of arrangement, or you've got a shoulder strap too if that's something you'd prefer more. I'm just going to put that out of the way now. Right, I'll put the link to this in the description so you can go through all the pricing, etc. And there's also a store coupon code as well if you want to buy one. But this is the tripod. So the three leg angles are high, medium and low. And when you click those open and click those out, they actually lock. The button itself, if you just look at this one now, that actually locks out there. So I can pull that out and it will fold up, and then as it goes back down it will spring back inwards. So pop that out again, all the way up, and then go down and decide which stage I want it on. Now for the visual demonstration purposes I'm going to put this on the lowest setting. You can see on the video I have used this, and unfortunately the ground was very wet and soggy, so I didn't really want to be laid down taking shots kneeling, sitting or even prone like this, but you certainly could do, because minimum height on this is only about 10 inches if you want to do it like that. Or of course Dave is 6'2", he's shooting it standing up, and thankfully for once not complaining at me for being a The legs are all carbon fibre, and they come with these Velcro attachable sort of sleeves to go on them. Those are rubberised on the inside so they'll grip onto it, and you can see the diameter of the carbon legs here. It's 8-layer carbon fibre. The anodising seems hard, it's rich coloured, and it looks like it's been very well made. These, as I say, you can just plop these over in any position you want to use them, and of course it's not so bad on carbon fibre because it doesn't draw the heat from your hands, but when you're out shooting at night, if you want to pick that up, you can hold it by those and it isn't going to drag the heat out of your hands. Now, looking at the leg extensions, you've got rotating collars here, so they go like that. Pull them all out. It's about a quarter, half turn to rotate them. Depends how tight you want them, really. I tend to make sure they're nice and snug, so they're not going to collapse at all. But those are going in multiple stages like that, and you can extend them all the way out. Try not to knock anything off the wall. Now, it's also supplied with, let's have a little look here. It's got rubber feet on it, but we can unscrew those completely, and if you want to, it looks like we've got Allen keys and instructions and things here, but I think it's all fairly self-explanatory. Bob those out of there. So we have got 3 steel spike feet, and if you are on poor surfaces or surfaces where you need some grip, that will dig straight in, and that's going to actually give you a lot of grip on the ground conditions. So depending on what you're shooting from, whether you're on grass or gravel or various different things like that, you can do as you want. So I'm kind of fiddling in as I'm doing this with you. I'm just going to take that back out now before I stick it through my tabletop. It's all nice foam on here so people don't moan about me banging guns and things around. Right, so other things in there, we've got some more Allen keys. It looks like we've got some thread adapters as well, because all the shooting gear you imagine is made for shooters isn't. It's really all made for filmmakers and cameramen. So you've got standard 1/4" threads and 5/8 threads, and you get adapters and things like that for changing things around. So if I just disassemble this, that head will come completely off there, and that is a 5/8 thread. So that will be something compatible with that thread there. So as you can see, it's a pretty conventional camera tripod thread. Pop this back on here now so I can show you as it's supplied. So I tighten that on there. So that is the locking knob, so you can go through 360 degrees and then lock it in position as you want. Now that is if you've set a particular angle for the head itself and you want to pan at that, but if you lock that in place, it doesn't really matter. You might as well lock that down, make sure it's tensioned well onto the tripod base. But once you lock that down, make sure it's tensioned on the bipod. You can control everything with the friction adjust on the side here. Now that is a 44mm ball there which goes on the friction control, and you can actually angle that down at 45 degrees if you're on the stops, or if you go into the little grooves you can also angle it all the way down sort of 90 degrees pointing towards the floor, or vice versa. So if I pick that back up, imagine I'm looking forwards here, I have got friction control there, so if I slacken that off, that it's just got very sort of gentle movement, and you can of course balance that to the weight of your rifle, which may be 7 or 8 pounds, maybe 9 pounds of the scope on top, depends on what you're using it for, because I would say this is more of a sporting tripod than one for PRS or things like that, where you would be using a very heavy rifle. But the joy of this, you know, less than 2 kilograms, it's so light to carry around, very nice to handle. So looking back at the friction, just see it's actually a 2-stage control there, but you can tension that exactly as you want. And if I lock that up a bit more, that is now a lot more difficult to move. Now don't forget, when you've got a whole rifle on here, you've got a lot more leverage on it, but that is featherweight. It's easy to adjust with your fingertips, although I have suggested that it might want to do a slightly larger control, because many shooters are going to be out at night, it's going to be cold, maybe want gloves on, things like that. But it's certainly viable to use it as it is. And I've had no trouble shooting with that at all yesterday, and Dave shot some very accurate shots with it, whilst not complaining the fact it was nice and tall for him. So looking at the head now, what have we got on here? Well, again, Arca, that's just a photographic thing. So this is Arca compatible. It is also Picatinny compatible, so you can put Picatinny on there and that will lock down too. Now, one little thing about this that you don't see in instruction manuals and stuff like that is I've had a lot of these tripods. They're all fairly generic, but some of them have some subtle features that are a little bit better than others. Now, this is one of the ones I would say is a little bit better, because if I put Picatinny there and clamp it, that locks in, and without adjusting anything, I can put Arca in there and clamp that, and I don't have to adjust anything. Now, of course, you can adjust it if you want with tools through the side, and the tools are supplied, but once it's done, it's right, and it doesn't seem to have moved, and I'm very happy with it. And if you see on the ceiling camera here, you can see this cam. That cam has actually got a lot of travel. So you can take up a lot of slack there. That's probably moving, you know, maybe 7 or 8 millimeters when you lock that down, which is excellent, because it means when you flick it open, you can lift things in and out easily. You're not kind of trying to jiggle things or nestle things or slide things in. Pop it down, lock it on, and it's in and locked. And it is exactly the same with the Picatinny, because they've got the tolerances correct on it. So essentially, you don't have to adjust it once you've set it up. And in fairness, this is how it's arrived with me, and it's perfect. Now, Manbilly also sent me this gun clamp head. So if I put that on there, lock that in place, guess what? That's nice and solidly in place again, and it's got opposing threads on it, so it tightens from both sides, stays central, and there's a nice big aluminium locking lever on the side there. You can get plenty of grip on that, clamp the gun in as you want it. Lock that back in position there, spin that back off there just to show you the insides of them, because these have got massive rubber lined jaws, and they're not just solid rubber, they're kind of segmented rubber, so you just get a lot more grip from them, and I'm very pleased with that. There's also rubber in the base here, so you don't get the rifle wanting to slide backwards or forwards, and all this appears to be made from stainless steel, and it's nicely smooth, it's quiet in operation, and you can lock that in position really well. So I did some shooting with this yesterday with Dave, as we said, and I would like to have done some more positional stuff with it, but essentially I didn't feel the need to, because it didn't disappoint me in any way, shape or form. And critically, when it was actually at full height, full extension, Dave was standing up at his full 6'2" height, and he was extremely happy using it. Now, as I say, this is probably more suitable to a sporting or mid-weight rifle. It's not really, you know, designed for a super heavy rifle. Not that it won't support one, but you'll generally find that the bigger the heavier the rifles, you might want slightly broader spread on the legs and slightly larger legs. But the pleasure of it is that that is how light it is. You know, I can just swing that around, flip it about, and it's just not bothering me at all. That will live in the back of my truck, that's going to get used. I'll probably use it when I'm out foxing, kind of more sedentary things. But if I wanted to, there's nothing to stop me using that for its original purpose. Makes a great camera tripod. It'll also make a spotting scope tripod, and you can use it for whatever you need. Right, I think we've covered about everything there. I'll put all the links in the description, and you can see there is actually also a store code so you can get discount on it. So try that one out, because I'll be shooting it. You'll be able to see what I'm doing with it over the following months, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you keep track of my regular uploads, because you'll see it again. Because one thing I will say about these is I've had carbon fibre tripods before, and what happens is this: where the aluminium sections of the locking collars are bonded to the carbon fibre, if you get a bit brutal with them, they just break off straight away and the glue comes unbonded. Now, that's not a permanent problem, because you can rough up the surfaces, clean them all off and bond the aluminium back on with some proper epoxy where it hasn't been done very well in the factory. But what I will say is this: I have given this some quite brutal, rigorous testing, gripping and spinning these, and they lock up tight and they haven't broken at all yet. One thing I will say is that each of the locking collars has a nice rubber grip to it, and that rubber grip actually starts to slide if you get too excessive with the torque, so you're not going to risk crushing anything, and you're also not going to get cold hands or lose grip when they're wet, or you've got gloves on, things like that. So everything is going to work very happily. One thing I would say, if we're in a conversation about this, is I'm not really one for being obsessive over cleaning stuff, but sometimes with tripods, it doesn't hurt when you've used them, especially given the amount of mud you get. Wipe them down, a little bit of furniture polish, clean them up, and it will just make them operate so much more smoothly, because at night when you don't want to be making a load of noise, that's the case. And I tend to extend the bottom leg, extend the next, and then I can control all the height requirements I need just using the top leg, which means that I'm also not getting wet, muddy hands all the time. And if I'm out ratting, I'm also kind of not touching that end, which has been all over the floor and in all where the rats are and things like that. So call me a prude, but that's what I am like. Right, well, I hope you've enjoyed watching that little bit more of a light-hearted review on an accessory. Don't forget to look in the description, because all the links will be there to the Manbilly website, all the prices, all the delivery options, and of course other accessories like this locking clamp head. Because not all guns have an Arca rail or Picatinny rail. A lot of guns these days do have M-lock, which means you can put either on them, and of course Arca rails, full length of the forend, is becoming more common. But on a sporting rifle, you do still get a lot of them that want the gun clamp, and I quite like using them, and this one does seem to give me a good grip, a good hold on the gun without it wanting to rock out of it, and it's all very nicely made, hard anodised aluminium. It's not sort of cheap folded metal or soft aluminium. Let's just not be too derogatory about it. It works very nicely. Right, well, please like, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell and keep track of my regular uploads. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.